Good morning, Muscatine. It is Wednesday, and I'm really confused that it's Wednesday because we didn't play racquetball this morning, so my day is like already totally screwed up. A couple of quick things. Don't forget, obviously, there's an election coming up because we've got two candidates here today. But we've got the Discover Muscatine, Discover the Candidates coming out soon for you to be able to see all that stuff. And don't forget, Halloween's just around the corner. In case you didn't know, visit discovermuscatine.com/Halloween, and you can see I think it's almost 20 different Halloween events that are still going on between now and then. So I'm going to say this, Muscatine, we either have a crazy desire to have candy, or there is a conspiracy of dentists working together to influence everybody to have trunk or treats, because we have a ton of them. And Dr. Jared Johnson, I'm calling you out. I think it's you. Just saying, But anyway, check that out. You've got plenty to do this Halloween season, and then right from there, we'll start rolling into the holidays. And holy cow, it's going to be busy, folks. Lots of cool stuff coming up. As part of our Discover the Candidates series, we've invited all of the candidates for school board, city council, any government office to participate with us in a couple of ways. And just to kind of help you understand how we do this, we have a questionnaire online for each one of the candidates to fill out, where they can all answer the same questions, and we can help create a profile capsule for you guys, which will be out shortly. We also invite each candidate to come into a one-on-one interview where we ask each candidate the same questions, kind of a forum style, except for just one-on-one, so that they can't hear each other's answers. And since obviously nobody here is a professional politician, it makes people a little more comfortable, and we'll put those out here probably the first and next week for you. And we also invite each of the candidates to come on the Muscatine Today show for a more free flow time to be able to kind of talk about the things that interest them, so you can kind of get to know them a little bit. And so we actually have two candidates doing that today. The first is Don Lampe, who is...
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm very good.
Candidate for the first ward of the school district. And one thing that I always do, I know a lot of these candidates, so I always like to make sure everybody knows my relationship. Don and I have known each other
Long time.
a long time.
He knew your father, obviously.
Friends of my dad from back in the First Baptist Church days. So we've known each other a long time. So if we hear something like that, that's why. We have known each other for quite a while. So with that, if you would, sir, for those that don't know you, introduce yourself a little bit and maybe touch on why you want to run for city council.
Certainly. If I go way back, and it really affects a lot of who I am today, is the fact that I grew up in central Iowa on a farm with, believe it or not, 8 other siblings. So we had a full baseball team and everything else in our family. It was a busy family and a big family on the farm.
Now, did you all position well? I mean, could you have actually fielded a team?
Oh yes,
Okay.
Even my sisters and stuff were very sports-minded and worked the farm and everything.
Cool.
So, my parents were ahead of their times. It's like everybody worked, everybody had their jobs and their chores and stuff, and that really does impact kind of how I view life. It is a lot about hey, you do have responsibilities to yourself. You do have responsibilities to the, at that time, to the family and stuff. So it affected a lot of, and still does affect a lot of who I am and how I view things, in the world out there.
And so how did you end up saying, you know what, I should run for city council?
Yeah, that's probably one of the most frequent questions I get out there is, why would you want to do this? And a lot of it is, I've retired from H&I almost 6 years ago now. And the Lord has blessed me, and my time with H&I was really allowed me to be in a point in my life that I need to give back. I need to do something more than just in my retirement, more than just, hey, I'm just going to sit here and watch the Weather Channel and play golf and mow the yard type stuff, which is all really good. Don't get me wrong,
right.
It's good. That's kind of what retirement's all about.
Right.
But I also think it's a fact of it affords me the ability, and I think the background through my business career and through my life experiences and stuff, to be able to help move the city of Muscatine forward, to help the citizens of Muscatine have a better place, to raise a family and to, work and to play and all of that stuff. That's really why I want to do it, because I think I have something that I can offer back to the community through all of those life experiences and through the, the things that I've learned through my business career that I think I can then take and use to make the city continue to grow and to continue to prosper in the future.
So, one thing, Muscatine is, and we've talked about this, if you've been here for a long time, Muscatine is, I hate to say extremely unique, because unique is one of a kind. So I don't know how you're extremely one of a kind, but there's so many little hidden gems. And we were talking about this the other day, and it's interesting to see what people pick from the stuff of Muscatine that they enjoy.
Yeah.
So as you look at Muscatine, what are some of the things that you enjoy? What are the things that, if you had a billboard of your own to put up for Muscatine, what would you put on it?
Wow, really good question. But I use my wife as an example to that. 2 weeks ago, a couple of her friends came into town from out of town, and they said, what are we going to do in Muscatine? She goes, well, we're going to park on one end of the downtown, and we're going to walk the entire downtown. And even Lori, who loves to shop and stuff, as she walked down through the downtown Muscatine, it was very much, it's like, wow, I didn't know there were so many different little unique shops and stores and opportunities and stuff down in here. All the way from bed and breakfasts to a hair salon to eateries to restaurants, and I mean, it was just a really good, fun day for them to come through.
Yep.
And her visitors, as they ended the day, it's like, I never knew that about Muscatine. I never knew that there was so many opportunities down here in downtown Muscatine. And I guess that's kind of what I see as Muscatine is really unique. I think the downtown businesses, including yourself, have worked really hard to present an image of Muscatine that says, hey, we are really a vibrant downtown. Unfortunately, for a lot of downtowns in rural America, that's not the case. And I think the city administration and the business people and all the people downtown really have worked really hard over the past few years to make downtown Muscatine something that you should be proud of, and there's a lot of opportunity here if we go explore.
It is, and that's what's interesting about downtown, because people ask me about downtown a lot, right? And what I think is interesting, and you started to kind of go into it a little bit, is some downtowns, people are like, well, you should be like Galena, right? And Galena's like shops the whole way down, right? Personally, I don't know if that's ever going to be us, and the reason I say that is because we have a lot of non-retail anchors down here.
Correct.
From the banks to a couple law offices. I mean, obviously we're a media company, and there's a bunch, like Feather Your Nest, interior design, which is a little retail-y, but it's not like retail shop like, say, the Merrill Soap Shop, right? And so, but what I think is really neat about that is it gives a whole blend. You know what I mean? So you've also got H&I down here. Every day at noon, you watch, you can sit at my desk and you can watch this. It's about 12:05 when the H&I folks all go walking that way. And then it's about 5 till 1 when they all go walking back that way.
That's right. And that's one of the unique things about downtown, is that you do have that mix of business and everything else. And again, I think that certainly helps H&I, because it's like, hey, I can walk to lunch. I can walk to a coffee shop and get coffee and stuff. I think that's the unique thing about it, is that blend, as you spoke to, of having businesses and retail shops and stuff like that in this downtown area.
And that's if you've got a cool idea for a retail shop. There are, or anything, there's still a couple open spots.
Yes,
so
there
come
are.
on down
and,
Jonas.
The more, the better. I think the more the merrier, as they would say, that we can put down here. I think it's better for the community, better for all of the residents of the town. And then you add, and you spoke about, Galena, and the fact that, Muscatine is different in that. We have a riverfront that is one of the best in the entire, Midwest. Oh. I mean, and again, kudos to, past administration and past business people that have worked really hard to make that, that way in there. And, we continue to add to it, and we continue to put public art up, and we continue to, make this a better city and stuff in that fashion. But we have a riverfront that we can hold events in and stuff, and it's got great vistas out there and stuff that, you know, we've all quoted on. And again, I'll go back to hidden gems. How many of you have been up to the Mark Twain Lookout? When you go up there, you have a vista out over such an immense span of the city and of the river that it is just like, wow, this is certainly unique to us here in Muscatine.
You know, it's interesting that you mentioned that one, and this is something that the other Chris and I have been working on, is kind of profiling some of the parks, right? And getting pictures and, you know, just to kind of like help people remember what all is floating around. And I grew up on top of Fifth Street Hill, so not that far from Mark Twain Overlook, right? And, you know, as a kid, we were up there quite a bit, right? But I haven't been up there in I don't know how long.
Yeah.
And Chris came back with some pictures, and I'm like, holy cow, I kind of forgotten that.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, and same with actually looking out at Weed Park, but kind of up on the, I call it the top of Weed Park, but like up by the cannon and stuff like that,
Yeah,
looking
where
out
the
over
old
the
zoo
river.
used to be.
Yeah, where the old, that shelter area.
For us old people, we remember the zoo at Weed Park.
Yeah. Which Chris actually pointed out something. He was doing a little research on it. And I don't know how accurate what I'm saying is, so don't quote me on this, please. But he was talking about, prior to it being Weed Park, it was actually called like Electric Park. And he had some pictures up of like, it said like Electric Park, and they were showing off electricity in that part. And like, they had like you know, you always see those like Tesla looking bulbs hanging down. Like, there's some pictures floating around of that. And I thought that was kind of cool.
Very cool.
But we'll see if we can find some of that and share it out.
Yeah, so that's really why I want to, you know, when people say, well, why do you want to get involved? Well, part of it is that. Part of it is, I think we have a unique opportunity here in Muscatine to continue to expand on those opportunities. We've got great businesses in town. You know, we've got great anchor employment in here. So when you talk to people to say, well, why would I ever want to come live in Muscatine? Well, we've got great employment opportunities here, and we need to continue to work and expand that and do that. We have, you know, what I believe to be a safe environment, because people will rank their requirements when they're moving to a city. You know, it's like, do I have employment? Do I feel safe? Are there recreational activities available to me? Is affordable housing, which I think I've shared with the people out there that I'm involved with Habitat for Humanity and stuff, and working in that area and stuff. So as you look at all those different, you know, aspects of what makes a community great and what makes a community vibrant, what allows a community to grow, those are some of the areas that, as I look at it, that says, yeah, we're doing okay on that, but I think we can improve on some of those things, and we should improve on some of those things, and continue to make Muscatine grow and continue to make it a vibrant community.
You know, and I think that's an interesting perspective that you bring up. And again, you know, when you've lived in a community your whole life, kind of like I have, minus college and stuff, you hear people talking, like, and you see the negative, and it's really easy. I don't care what it is. It's always really easy to pick out the negatives on something, whether it's a city, whether it's a job, whatever it is. And what's interesting is Muscatine, often when people from the outside come in for the first time, they're like, wow, this is nicer than I thought. People in town forget that a little bit once in a while. But you also don't want to get too hung up on like, oh, it's really good, because there are things we can improve.
Oh, yes.
And that's one thing that I like about how you kind of said that, is like, you know, it's not about are we good or are we bad. It's not about, you know, what we don't have, but it's just about like, what's the next step to be better, right?
Correct.
So in that vein, if you could pick one thing to add to Muscatine, no budget issues, no anything, what would you add? Professional baseball team?
That would be a nice one. I don't know if I could narrow it down to two things, because there's really
well, I said one thing. I'll give you two.
Okay.
I'll give you two.
Give me two, and then I can do that. I guess the first one would be, you know, additional restaurants, additional what I would call mid-market restaurants and stuff in town. I think there's additional places. I still hear and talk to a lot of people that have to travel out of town to really say, hey, where do I go get that mid-price point meal and stuff of that nature? I think we have everything else. We have a movie theater and stuff like that. So I think we can, you know, still have a night out on town. But, you know, I think we're limited in our mid-market in there. We've got a lot of good restaurants downtown and stuff, and I think we need to continue to frequent those and grow those. But I think there's still opportunity for, you know, kind of that mid-market eatery and stuff here in town. Secondly would be recreation. I love to bike, I love to run and stuff in there. So I think we have an opportunity as a community to expand, again, going back to that riverfront. I think we have an opportunity to expand. We've done the trail down into Great Lakes and stuff like that. We need to publicize that more, because if you are a biker, if you are an individual that does that, we've got some great opportunities. We just need to expand on those two areas. Recreational and then mid-market eateries would be, if you will, my two top of things to how to improve Muscatine.
Minus the exercise and the bike part of that, I agree with you. You know what I mean? I'm all down for the eatery. And Greg, I know I'm going to get Mr. Harper. Yes, cycling is awesome. I just have I get bored. I'll be honest. I get bored super easy. As I said,
I'm a jogger. I'm a runner. So people say it's like, you run 13 miles, and it's, yes, I do. Along with my daughter, I run 13 miles, and it's that's sometimes
I'd shoot my foot so I didn't have to do that. Literally, I think I would.
Yeah.
Well, Don, is there anything, as we kind of wrap up, is there anything that you would like folks to know that they may not, as they kind of go to the polls in the next couple of weeks, or if they're voting at home now? Is there anything that you'd like them to think about or know before they vote?
Well, the first thing is obviously get out and vote. We talk a lot about that, but it really is a government of the people and for the people and by the people type stuff. So really get out and vote. And then secondly, make sure your voice is heard. Yes, voting is important, but so is the day-to-day stuff. So if we're going to improve our community, we need to hear the voices and stuff. And you've got some great opportunities. You have eventually, if I'm successful, you'll have my email, you'll have phone calls, you'll have text. The city itself has this thing called Muscatine Connect, where you can go in and voice if you say, hey, for example, I've got a pothole that needs to be filled, or I've got an issue here. That is logged, that is tracked, and that is responded to in there, and the city administration and stuff review that on a daily, weekly, monthly type basis and grade themselves on that. So again, make sure your voice is heard not only through voting, but make sure your voice is then heard on a continual basis through all of those different means. And obviously, come to the city council, go to the school board meetings, and make sure that we continue to work to improve Muscatine as a community.
Awesome. Well, thank you for stopping in.
Thank
really
you
appreciate it.
for having me, and again, go vote and make sure your voice is heard.
Awesome. Well, thank you, sir. Really appreciate it.
And thank you.
Of course. And we will be right back after the break with Muscatine Community School District Board candidate Kim Schneider.
We've all been through a lot together, and along the way, you'll find out who really cares for you and who you can trust. Because there's a lot of stuff that happens in life, like those days when the amazing happens, or those days that are really, really hard. That's why you need someone like Unity Point Health. Because when it comes to your health, you gotta have someone you can trust. Unity Point Health. Know how much you matter to this world.
You know Rivo as expert plumbers, but did you know Rivo can also be your one source for complete bathroom and kitchen remodels? With professional craftsmen doing the job for more than 30 years, experienced in tile, carpentry, and of course plumbing, Rivo can transform a dreary basement into an elegant bathroom and upgrade a worn-out kitchen using inspirational design and quality brands. Before you stand in line at a big box store, call Rivo Incorporated and see how a hometown professional can refresh and improve your home.
From a clogged toilet to a complete sewer line replacement, Rivo is a modern plumbing company designed to respond quickly to all shapes and sizes of plumbing needs. Bringing in our heavy equipment to replace cracked gas lines, or designing clever piping systems for new construction plumbing, a family-owned company that's reliably honest and remarkably affordable. Right here in Muscatine, all day long, every day of the week. Rivo Incorporated, skill, knowledge, and tools to solve the messiest problems.
And welcome back. I am here with, as I said, Muscatine Community School District candidate Kim Schneider. How are you, ma'am?
I'm doing well.
And again, that's Angel, if you didn't catch it. Maybe
Things
there...
I'm used to.
Childcare is always such a fickle thing. And, it's local TV. This is what life is, right?
Exactly. Day by day.
It is. And I'll say this, I love the fact that we can do that and it's fine and it doesn't even matter. So as a quick disclosure, like I did with Don, I've known Kim for quite a while. She was a teacher at Mulberry while Wyatt was there, and I was in PTO, and so obviously we know each other and we've talked in football and other stuff like that. So again, if it looks like we know each other, it's probably because we do. So
Right.
How are you, ma'am?
I'm doing well. Jet lag. Got back from Germany last night, so
Yeah, how did that go?
it was wonderful.
Yeah, so kind of a cool thing, Kim came in and did her first, the formal interview that we'll put out later, right before she left for Germany. What was that, 2 weeks ago?
Yep.
And literally it was can I come in and do it? I'm getting on a plane, was it?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow,
yes.
yeah. And I'm yeah, we can do that. And she comes in and she's like, okay, I gotta go pack. And then you literally just got back. So it's
Yep.
kind of a cool little thing.
Yeah. Anyway.
So if you could, for those that don't know you, introduce yourself and then, just maybe a little bit about your work history, because obviously that ties into why you want to run, I would assume. And then kind of why you want to run for school board.
All right. Kim Schneider. I've lived in Muscatine all my life, 4th generation on our family farm. I taught for 31 years. I am subbing some now. I taught everything from K to 6 behaviors at risk and did some counseling. So I think I have a pretty good perspective. My children have graduated from here, so I have the perspective of a parent, now a grandparent, teacher, support staff. I think it's important that you remember them. I guess the reason I'm running is because I do have strong opinions about the school system since I've been so involved, and I would like to just hear some voices being heard from people that have skin in the game a little bit more and be that voice if I can. Also for the community and parents, I think we have some parents that need that support too. So I guess just for the opportunity to help make Muscatine a better place to send your kids to school. Not that it's a bad place, but I think there's opportunity for improvement and growth always. So.
Well, and that's something that you and I have talked about before, and it even kind of lines up with what Don was saying, right?
Yeah.
And Muscatine is an interesting town because there is a lot of good stuff here, and there's also a lot of room for opportunity. And not that that's unique; every community is like that. But just because you want to see things be better doesn't mean that you aren't
Right.
proud of what you have. Right?
Yeah, I don't want people to think that I have an axe to grind because I taught and somebody did something to me. It's nothing like that. I just feel the kids in our community are our next generation, and I'm here for the kids is the main thing, and teacher and staff support, I guess, from that perspective is my angle.
So as you look at, the school district as a whole and, maybe the next couple of years, and what are some of the things that you see as here are things that should be on our radar?
Well, I've gotten lots of questions since I've announced that I'm running just about where I stand on things. And I guess I want people to know that I am willing to listen, willing to ask questions. If I don't know, I'm certainly not afraid to say I don't know. But I think the main things we need to, back to your question, the main things we need to really look at, in my opinion, are teacher retention. We've got to keep those good teachers here and keep them here long enough that they get involved and are, grounded in our community. And I also think we need to get back to some basics with, there's opportunity for improvement in discipline and accountability for students, parents, and some teachers too. I'm not saying every teacher's out there, is perfect, but I think we need to have better communication from the top down, down up. And so I think just more communication to make more consistency and better decisions for everyone.
Well, no, and that's something we've sort of talked about before, and what's interesting is as a parent, Wyatt's in 6th grade at Mulberry. Sometimes you don't know what's important, right? And you're doing your best, and we two parents, we have a good situation, right? We can focus on things and stuff. And sometimes I wonder, okay, if we were in a tougher situation, how do you differentiate all this stuff? And and I think when the communication comes up, that's a really interesting point, because communication's all about not just throwing it out, but also making sure the person's heard it and understands it. And that's a tough thing. I mean, like, I'm in media, right? Like, every organization has, like, you could go into, like, when we do some consulting, they all have that communication problem. It's, It's a huge thing, and it's got to be a focus. And that's a great point, is like, even if we're doing things well, there's still always going to be opportunity for improvement.
Right, and I think we need to remember that communication's two-way, not just having token people on a committee and saying, yeah, we had them involved. We need to be able to listen to them and listen to others that maybe haven't had a voice and need to have a voice. We need to be available for parents when they have don't make them feel uncomfortable because they have what you might think is a silly little, don't make them feel like they have silly little questions.
Right.
Every question a parent has is important because they too are trying to raise the best they can. And we need to work together. And,
what's interesting is, like, I feel like I'm a fairly involved, have a pretty good idea of what's going on. But oftentimes, like, the number of times I've looked to, like, Stacy Olson at a PTO meeting and gone, I have no idea what you're talking about. Like, they're talking about those surveys and the daily experience thing. And again, like, I feel like I'm pretty, pretty caught up on a lot of the stuff. And I looked at it, I'm like, what are you? And then she explains, I'm like, oh, okay, totally makes sense. And again, for a lot of parents, what does this even mean? Like, why is it important? And having that resource, whether it's a teacher that they can talk to, whatever it is critical, that every parent feels like there's somebody they can ask those questions
Exactly.
of.
And I also think there's the other side of some parents. I mean, we can't totally cater to every parent either.
Right.
If you come in and you are upset about something, we obviously need to communicate about it, but I think some of the perception is that parents have all the control in schools. Parents definitely should have control of their child's education and those kind of things, but they also need to hold some accountability for what they are, what their child is doing, or get the truth, involve the children in those decisions. I just think we need some consistency across the board, accountability for kids and parents. Parents are all trying to do their best they can. I'm not saying that in the least. I'm just saying sometimes within the communication, the stories change and we don't always get the truth. And that's so important.
I tell the story about coming home to Wyatt one day, and Melissa had brought him home, and he was griping about something that happened in class. Like, they all got punished for something, a couple of them did. And I'm like, well, did you, like, help stop it? No, well, okay. I'm like, okay. And then I was like, so ultimately, did you guys deserve it? Yeah. Okay. Enough said. And he got it, right? I mean, it took a little bit of, but if you would have just listened to him at the beginning, it was like the end of the world.
Yeah.
I mean, he's 11.
And parents really, I mean, in some of my jobs that I've done at the district, parents want to do what's best. I mean, they come in and they're on fire, and that's okay. I've been there. I mean, my kids were not angels. I've been, but I always feel that you need to listen to both sides and get the big picture, and teachers do need support. Well, that's the bottom line. Teachers need support, and then if there is a discrepancy, work with them or whatever, but we have to, as a school system, support our staff.
Yeah, and I think
that's the bottom line too.
That's one thing that I've noticed over my time working with the school district is, and I can get this way, and there's one person in particular I know who will watch this and is thinking, oh my goodness, yes you can. I can get fiery, like, I know that, and it's great that I have a handful of people, one in the school, who I can call and be like, just dump out the emotions that come with it. I know I'm emotional about it, right? Mm-hmm. And I say that, like, hey, I know I'm being emotional about this right now, but here it is, right? And then they help me kind of walk it back through, and we find out, okay, well, what's the actual thing in here, right? And teachers have to do that, right? And it's
1,000 times a day.
Well, right, no, and it's you don't think about a teacher having to do that communication management function, but you absolutely do, right? Yeah. And sometimes you just need a different face in front of them, and like, that's a whole category of things aside from what happens in the classroom.
And I don't think emotion is bad.
No.
I mean, it obviously is going to be involved in most communication.
Right.
I too have a friend who brings me down a little bit when I'm ready to say things I shouldn't say, but I also have said things through emotions, and I guess I'm not ashamed of the fact that I am passionate about some things, and right or wrong. Sometimes you have to say what you think and go from there.
Well, I agree, and that's something that I think we could all do better on, and I have this conversation fairly often, surprisingly, is it's a grace conversation, right? Like, if you get into that, like, everybody's going to have a bad day. Everybody's going to have this. And yeah, you know what? Sometimes you say something you shouldn't. Of course, everybody does. Kids do, teachers do, administrators do. Everybody in the world does, right? And rather than just, like, jumping, like, let's all pull back together and figure it out and go, oh, hey, and be able to say, hey, you know what? I had a bad day. Sorry about that. And they can say, hey, you know what? I have bad days too. That's all. It's all good. We'll figure it out, right? And I think overall, I think that's something that the school district has gotten a lot better on. You can always do better, right? But you hear them talking about it regularly, and to see you at the school board level saying, hey, that's important, is obviously a good thing.
Yeah, and I think on all levels, I mean, kids with just communication and relationships are so important. In the classroom, it was for me. I'm a big proponent of, I mean, I basically only had one rule, and I think if the whole district followed that rule, it'd be great, you know, just respect.
Right.
Respect yourself, respect your property, and respect each other. And there isn't really much more. If you're doing those three things,
yeah, I always say it's the Daniel Tiger thing, right?
Yeah.
And so here's one for you. A little spin on what I asked Don. If you could have one or two things for the district, no budget issue, no anything, what would you pick? And it can be fun. It doesn't have to be super responsible. There's
lots of fun things, and I think the district does a great job of that, and they do a great job of publicizing all the great things we're doing in our buildings and stuff. But I think a little bit back to basics, I think the thing that would help the district the most would be to get a district-wide behavior discipline plan, train everyone, which the money would come into play at that point, but train everyone and stick with it for more than a couple years. Have everybody on board so that we can get more than an inch deep into something and see. There's going to be a curve. There's going to be a downward curve, and then hopefully back up and level off. But I think we really have to get control back in the classrooms. And I'm not saying they're out of control. I just think consistency across the board with everybody involved in the decision making, and then stick to it.
Gotcha. Okay, so what's the fun one?
Oh my gosh.
Something fun.
Fun one would be, well, for teachers, the fun one would be, I would like to see them get out and go to some conferences because they need a break from the classroom.
That's still work. Something fun.
No, but it's fun. We had fun.
Teachers sometimes have a really weird understanding of the word fun.
That's true, and that's sad in a way. but and then I just think more field trips. We have so many kids that are not exposed to so many things, and the internet and smart boards are bringing that into the classroom. But just to get out there and get hands-on, provide those experiences for kids from K to 12 that they're not able to get in their homes and in their daily lives.
That is admittedly something I would not have thought about.
Oh gosh,
I mean, like we did a lot of them in PTO. You know what I mean? Like there was always the annual field trips and all that other stuff. But you know, now that you actually say that, I'm sort of going, well, obviously, if the PTO is the one doing that, it isn't necessarily something that's
that everybody,
and you could always do more. Like I always thought when we would talk about it, I'd be like, yo, this is all the field trips you guys want to do? Like, don't you want to do more than that?
And I'm not saying testing's not important, but we need to these kids need social skills and how to get out and about and experience the world. How do we expect them to, you know, be turned loose at 18 if we haven't taught them how to behave in the world?
Right.
So and experiences, so many experiences that so many kids in our town are missing.
So here's the big easy one at the end. Here's the softball toss for you. What would you like people to think about as they go vote? Like what's the one or two things that if you could say, hey, from the time you've heard me talking, here's the one or two things I'd like you to take away from it.
I'd like you to take away that I'm from my heart, I'm here for the kids. I'm honest, not afraid to say the tough things, ask the tough things, not afraid to say I don't know or I screwed up and try to make it right and investigate. So I guess the one or two things would be that I'm in it for the kids and the staff, and that I just would I've lived here all my life, raised my kids here. 2 of my kids are going to stay here the rest of their lives, probably, who knows, but just make it the greatest school system and the greatest community we can. And we've got so much opportunity. Awesome. So much opportunity.
Well, yeah, and so that's perfect. So Muscatine, remember, you've got the election coming up November 7th.
Right.
We'll have all the polling places and all that stuff, so you can find that. That'll be super easy. And then
Early voting has started.
yeah,
so,
of course, early voting has started.
I'm going to go do that as soon as I leave here. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And I guess I would also like to say, obviously I would appreciate your vote, but if I'm not what you're looking for, get out there and that's how we make change, is make your voice heard by your vote.
yeah, what I always say is, regardless of who you vote for, vote. right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I one time said it doesn't matter who you vote for, just go vote. And I'm like, wait a second, no, it does matter who you vote for.
It does, but you have to vote your
regardless,
heart.
But you still, regardless of who it is you vote for, go vote.
Yeah.
So with that, Muscatine, I'm going to call it a day. We will be back tomorrow. Here's the cool thing. It's going to be sort of a Halloween episode tomorrow. Stinky Philpott from Stinky's House of Horrors will be here. So with that, Muscatine, go attack the rest of the day with an enthusiasm unknown